when I started this company, I'm like, this is our legacy company with my co-founder and my crew. I want this to be a part of the fabric of America. Even a little tiny piece, you got to take that home run swing at some point. And to me, this is our home run swing. But it doesn't make me a better person.
Yeah.
And unless I become a better person.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Dre and Smiley Inner Circle Podcast.
Smiley, man, I think you would agree with this. Two of our favorite topics are real estate and technology, right? Today's guest combines the two with what he does. And it's amazing because, you and I are always talking about, how can we better leverage technology with the things that we're doing and how is technology being used in different industries, things like that. And our guest today, Bob, has mastered that in a way in terms of leveraging technology as it pertains to real estate. And we're going to learn more in depth about that as we move forward. Bob, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Yeah, man. So tell me, let's start from the beginning. Tell me your origin story in terms of how you discovered an opportunity here in the real estate industry and how you married technology with that.
So it's, I've always been a guy who likes fairness and, a level playing field. It's like, I'll compete you on the field. I don't have a problem with that. It's when the field's tilted, I have a problem with that. So I had a company called Hazard Hub that did natural hazard measurements. So the risk of flood, wildfire, wind, hail, tornado, all that stuff. And I sold that company in 21, which was great. And then I bought a house because they say, don't do anything rash. So I bought a house in a place I didn't know all that well because it made my wife happy. And I knew all this stuff about the house from the data that we had. Some friends of mine had data. And so I pulled it all together and I said, I like your house, but I don't like the price. So I offered 10% less thinking they'll never take it. And they took it. So all because I was an informed buyer. And I went looking around for like a Carfax for houses. And there wasn't one. And when you think about the real estate industry, everything is focused on the seller. It's like, make sure the seller gets the best price for their house. The buyer has to pay for everything, but nobody really cares about the buyer. Even the buyer's agent gets paid by the seller. I'm like, that's not fair. That's wrong. And so I had a few bucks and the desire to start another business. And I'm like, let's go. Let's build it. So I built PropertyLens.
Nice, nice. So let's go one step further. So clearly you're what I would consider a serial entrepreneur. So taking a step back a little bit further, where did that bug come from? Did you just kind of, did you have mentors growing up? Was it the family you were raised in?
So I was born in Boston. I'm the youngest of 6. My grandparents are immigrants from Lebanon. And I didn't know the first thing about starting a business. When we started a business, it was either like you're a mechanic or you own a bakery or something like that. The professional world, I didn't know any professional people growing up. So I was, I was good in school and that helped. So I went the school path. I got into a good school, but my whole family was always like, just find a corporate job and keep that job and stick with it forever. And then when I was in my late 30s, I started my first business and discovered it's good to have customers before you start a business. And the business worked out. It was a consulting business, but I hated it. And it scared me off of starting a business. And so I had a lot of friends who were mentors and said, hey, you should start your own business. I'm like, no, I tried that. Didn't work. I hate it. I can't do it. And then I started to get fired a lot. So I worked for Live Nation. I built their email marketing infrastructure. I got fired from that job. I worked for Expedia. I was their global director of outbound marketing. I got fired from that job. And the reason why I got fired is because I was always wanting to do what was next. And I found out that corporate America doesn't necessarily like that. They want you to stay in your lane. So finally, at 53 years old, I had an idea for a business with a couple of friends of mine, and we started it. And then I got fired from the job I was at before. So I was like, I'm 53 years old. I've been fired now 4 times in a row. I don't have a choice as to whether this can work or not. This has to work. And that desperation is really not something I would wish on anybody. but it's part of my motivation. I'm always like, I'll prove you wrong. Just go ahead and doubt me. I think that's my motivation more than anything else. And then once I became an entrepreneur, I'm like, holy cow, this is way better than being an employee. So I decided I don't want to work for anybody else again. And if I'm not driving the bus, then I don't want to be on the bus.
I love that quote. If I'm not driving the bus, I don't want to be on the bus. That's a t-shirt moment.
You can it's royalty free from me to you. If you can make it work, there you go.
Appreciate it.
So how did you get the technical skills, or did you always have a team, or are you a technical visionary where you just knew how to do things with, you mentioned Live Nation, Expedia, were you just leading a team of developers and it was your division and they were designing it, or you're actually a developer yourself?
So it goes way back. My dad was from South Carolina. He grew up outside of Asheville, North Carolina. He was born in Asheville, grew up in Ware Shoals, South Carolina. 7th grade education, Navy guy, the whole 9 yards. He wasn't dumb. He just wasn't educated. So when I was in school, he would be curious about what I was doing. So that I would take some of these really complex concepts and try to break it down and make it understandable for him. He's like, oh, I get that. And until it got really complicated, then I just said, well, I work with computers. And that ability to translate this technical concepts to non-technical people became my skill. So I don't code. I've tried it. It's very frustrating. You miss a comma or something like that, and the whole thing blows up. It frustrates me. But I lead technical teams really well because I know how to speak enough technical stuff to know when someone's messing with me, and I give them the room to create cool stuff. I don't overmanage them. So it's always been, I've been able to communicate with sales, with marketing, with technical, with finance, with all of these different groups. And I like to think I'm pretty good at bringing them all together so we're all pushing in the same direction. And that's the skill that I see a lot of entrepreneurs lack is they're too technical or they're too scientific or they're too finance oriented and they can't bring that message across to multiple people who might not be as intense as they are.
With that foundation, are you using AI with PropertyLens?
So there are days when I think that AI will kill us because I think if you took AI and put it into a robot, a heavily armed robot, and said, kill the most dangerous thing on the planet, then we're all getting wiped out in a matter of days rather than, years or eons. Then I think, well, you're just an alarmist. Don't be an alarmist. So to me, and I don't want to insult anybody, but AI to me is like your really smart friend who's on the spectrum who says things that are really smart, but then every once in a while you're like, what did you just say? That's what? What? And so your job with AI is to corral this part and take advantage of this part. So the answer is yes, we use AI a lot. We use AI to clean data. We use AI to interpret that data as well. But we also put a series of rules around it from our experience that help to rein in that sort of, crazy talk that sometimes AI can do. So AI is amazing at helping to interpret data. It's not so great at creating data. So that's where we have to sort of massage because we use hundreds of different data sets. We have to massage all that and tie it together, use AI where it's relevant, use rules where it's relevant. But yeah, we use it a lot, especially when it comes up to marketing creative and stuff like that. It's amazing how efficient you can get because you have that smart friend on your shoulder.
It's amazing. I agree, Bob. We've had this podcast for about 3 years. In that time frame, AI has exponentially decreased the amount of work we have to put in on the back end and
Yeah.
sometimes on the front end to run the podcast. It's just amazing how rapidly it's growing. I agree with you. There are times when I'm just blown away, like, whoa, this is like I'll see people typing information into a spreadsheet that then they go Google it and then bring it over to the spreadsheet. And understandably, everyone doesn't embrace technology. And I'm thinking, boy, all you really have to do is go to Chat GBT and say, create a spreadsheet that does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other side of that coin is, have you heard of Sora? I think I'm
Sure.
pronouncing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something it's kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
It's that side of AI where you wonder, well, wait a second. Potentially someone could pretend to be my daughter and send me a video saying that, send us a ransom
Yep.
or, she's going to go for driving off this cliff. So Again, I don't want to be an alarmist either, but there's definitely two sides to.
Listen, I think that some level of alarm is necessary. You know, it helps to protect us as a species. Like, the reason why you don't walk off of a curb in front of moving traffic is because you'll get run over, and that caution is good. AI people seem to think that you can just walk out in the traffic and everything will be fine. It's like you have a very distinct possibility of getting run over by AI. Now, do I think that Sora should always have a signature on it? So it says created with Sora, yeah, but then you get into regulation and people get all wigged out about that stuff. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's a dangerous weapon. It is a dangerous weapon.
it
And
is.
people keep treating it like it's not that big a deal. And that
Yeah.
concerns me.
That concerns me as well. It concerns me as well. So let's talk about your average customer, right? So let's say Smiley and let's say Smiley is a residential buyer,
Hmm.
and I'm a investment buyer, right?
Hmm.
How do you approach us differently in terms of marketing the skills your company has, your company Property Lens?
Hmm.
How do you serve our needs differently?
While those two buyer profiles may seem similar, they're actually radically different. So, for residential real estate buyers, the game is this in real estate. Let's find a place that you fall in love with, and then you can overlook all the stuff that might be going on with that property. And as anyone who's been in a relationship knows, the worst time to make a critical decision is right after you fall in love with something. Like, it's littered with bad decisions. So what we try to do is to say, before you put your earnest money down, get a property lens report, see what we have to say, and then we'll give you a list of questions to say, hey, make sure you ask these so you prevent problems from happening down the line. And listen, we might tell you the place looks great. We don't see anything. That gives you peace of mind. But there'll be a lot of situations where, like, something's off. Make sure you ask the question because you're the one who has to pay for it. Now, as a real estate investor, you take the emotion out of it. The real estate investor is like, A, what kind of a deal can I get on this house? And B, can I make a cash flow positive? So you'll want to know things like, what's my expected expense in the next 2 years for this house? Which will tell you. We'll tell you how old we think the systems are. We'll tell you the condition of the roof. We'll tell you all the permits that have been pulled. We'll tell you the weather events that have hit there. So you make a more dispassionate decision, which is actually better for us because you're used to using data to get a good deal on a house. Whereas, Smiley, it might be thinking, I just love this house and I'm going to overlook all this stuff. Not that you would do that, but that happens all the
I
time.
would.
And then you discover, like, the sewer line's full of clogged roots and you got to spend 30 grand to fix that. And here's the problem. Like, when you buy a house, everybody thinks about the mortgage payment, principal and interest. Okay, that's my number. Can I afford this? Taxes go up every year. Insurance goes up every year. And if you have an unexpected expense, you got to pay for that now, not over 30 years. So if you buy a house and then have a $30,000 expense, a lot of times you're kind of hosed because you don't have $30,000 to fix it. And that happens every day. And that's not right, which is why we exist.
Makes sense. So with Carfax, the data collected on that car heavily is dependent on the owner of that car taking it to a reputable shop who who then, I guess, feed their data feeds into Carfax, or Carfax pulls that data from some digital database. And so you can see the oil changes, the timing bell, whatever's been done, as long as that owner has taken it to a reputable shop. If they've done the work themselves, you pull up Carfax, you may see that no work's been done. For Property Lens, how challenging is it to collect that data on, those really pertinent things that a buyer is going to want to know? Things like the age of the roof, the age of the HVAC system, the type of maintenance that's been done or hasn't been done. I imagine taxes, et cetera, that's pretty easy because it's part of the information that's collected from the state or the city. Talk to me about that and how much I can rely on that data that you're sharing with me, the buyer.
Sure. It's an enormously challenging question. I think one of the things that we overlooked when we started our business is we do something that's really hard to do, which is to collect and to standardize and to be able to use all this data. So getting building permit data from municipalities is hard work. Getting aerial imagery for every property in the country is hard work. We just happen to be good at it. It's like, you know, people who can hit a baseball, 400 feet, they don't think about hitting a baseball over 400 feet. They're just good at it. And so we're kind of like that with data. So there's two things. The first is we always try to collect as much data as possible. And then we use our experience and our algorithms to say, here's what we see. But sometimes the absence of information is still information. So, for example, building permits. Now, Smiley, in Florida, I think you have to have a building permit to go to the bathroom in Florida.
Yeah.
Like,
Everything.
yeah, everything,
Every
everything.
tree. Everything.
And Florida is a sunshine state, so there's good access to fire department data, fire hydrant data, building permit data. So we pull all of that data. Whereas Dre in Nashville, they're like, we ain't giving you nothing, and it's hard to get. So the absence of that data is a flag to say, because a lot of times what you end up doing is triangulating data. So when you take building permit data and you take public record information and you take satellite imagery and you take government data from other sources and you look at prior disasters and you take the real estate listing and you combine them all together, there might be hidden signals in all of that data that when you pull them together, it creates a picture. But if you look at them separately, it doesn't. That's what we do. And so if there's an absence of information, what we'll say is, it looks like there might be an issue. Make sure you ask these questions. And then you decide. I mean, you still have freedom of choice. We're not telling you not to buy houses. We love when people buy houses. We're telling you to ask these questions so you are more informed about what the potential long-term cost of that house is. And that's all we want to do. We're not saying buy it or don't buy it. We're saying make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you buy.
So the secret sauce, as I understand, Bob, is collect as much data as possible on these
Mm-hmm.
homes, right? There's
Yep.
no limit. Collect any and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then the I guess the real key is then creating the best queries possible to mine that data.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when you create the report, you can have a coherent report that gives the buyer a sense of, well, yeah, this might be a good buy, or here are some things I need to consider as I buy, that type of thing. Am I tracking? Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
exactly. I kind of look at it like this. Like a lot of times you walk into a house and you don't know what's going on in that house. There's no pregame analysis for the house. It's like if you were on a sports team and walked into a contest with no pregame analysis or no plan, you're gonna get run over. Or your chances of getting run over are much higher than if you have a plan. So what we do is give you the pregame analysis on the house to say, here's everything that we see. Here's the questions you should ask. Here's the expected cost of ownership. Here's how all this stuff has changed. And now you can go in fully informed. And just like I did with my own house, said this, and this. And they answered these. They didn't answer these. So I had them tested. And I'm like, given all that information, I'm not going to give you what you want for the house. And if somebody else did, well, then you know what? I dodged a bullet. And that's not, again, the final decision is always yours. Be informed.
To put it in the workflow, so let's say I come to PropertyLens and I want this house and I pay your team. Then I say, okay, I'm gonna go in, we negotiate. Now once we go into putting in the earnest money, I still get the inspection. But you're not
Yeah.
saying don't do the inspection.
No.
So that's like, okay, you have your information now. Let's say Drake comes in, he wants to buy it. Now, does he subscribe to your service and he gets that report that you already done? Or do you do another report it's proprietary to each customer you have that wants that report?
The way it works is that we generate every report in real time. And because you might have come into a house and done some work that 6 months later, that old report's not relevant, or maybe a hurricane blew through town, or maybe there was a flood or something like that. So we want to make sure that we have the most current and accurate data possible. And I'll give you an example based in Tampa. We just talked about this yesterday. And this is an outlier case. This is not just for high value homes, but there's a home on Tampa Bay, faces west over the causeway. It's a beautiful place, $14 million house. Turns out that it's in a flood zone because that whole places in a flood zone. And the owner did a whole bunch of work to the house and didn't get permits for it. So then after the transaction, the city said, you got to rip all that stuff out and do it again. So it's up to code. $2 million in repair costs for that house. And now they're suing the prior real estate agent. And not to comment about the merits of the suit, but the first question we see on our PropertyLens report is, it looks like there's some unpermitted work that's gone on. You should clarify that with the buyer. And listen, we were happy because that was the first question that came out. It's not like we cooked the report, but even in the biggest of houses. Now, if you buy a $14 million house, chances are you have the resources to sue somebody. If you buy a $300,000 house, you might not have the resources to sue somebody, but you should still be able to get the same level and type of information that the big houses get. And that's what we try to do.
No, I love that example because here in Tampa, investors are calling all the time. And I said, all my work's permitted. Do your due diligence with the city, then call me back. Don't ask me questions, because if you've done your stuff properly, it should, everything, like you said, I can't even add a fence or a window or remove a tree without a permit. So it's like,
Yep.
go to the city, get all your permit work. So I can see that's where the value of the investors come to you. Who's
Mhm.
your ideal customer or prospect? Is that a prospect that says, hey, I'm looking for this $80,000 house in Lakeland, Florida, or I'm looking for this $5 million house on the causeway in Tampa? Or is it everybody who basically wants to have that pregame analysis before they engage in a contract?
It's everybody who's in the market to buy a house. So whether it's a $80,000 house or whether it's $80 million house, you know, you should get the facts, because it's not that people lie intentionally, but sometimes they don't fully disclose. It's like a Carfax report. If you go to buy a used car and there's not a Carfax report, that's a red flag. Either the car is too old or the owner's like, nah, no, I'm not going to give you that. So that's a red flag. And we want the same thing to happen with the PropertyLens report, where, hey, you're going to invest your money. You're going to invest your life in keeping that house above water, improving it, and having a great experience in that house. Spend a couple of bucks up front just so you know what the surprises are that might be hiding in there. Now, I knew that there was stuff here, but I was comfortable with it because I knew. I wasn't surprised by it. And that's what we're trying to do, is to turn that surprise into an expectation.
Cool
So,
thing is, oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
One last question. The cool thing is, Dre and I, we had a lot of real estate people on our podcast.
Mhm.
How this is my first time hearing about your Property Lens business, which I think is phenomenal. Because when I was researching, I so excited when you said we're like Carfax for houses. How do people find out about you? Meaning, do you target the real estate agent saying you need to do this service for your people who are buying? Or do you go after just the marketing of people who are in the market for buying a house? You should be aware of us, and this is something we provide.
I'm relying on you two guys to bring some business over the door. So,
Affiliate link. We're gonna put an affiliate marketing link in
We
there.
got you,
Yeah,
Bob. We
we
got
got you.
you. We got you. No problem.
my sister is a real estate agent, and I ran a report for her because she had an estate sale that she couldn't find any information on. So I gave her a report, and I said, "What'd you think?" She goes, "I hope one of my buyers never shows up with one of your reports at my open house." And I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "Too much advantage for the buyer." So we have a lot of resistance from selling agents because they tell me all the time, my job isn't to expose the problems with this house. My job is to get the maximum value that I can for my seller. Now, you would hope that they disclose these issues, but sometimes, it may be the prior owner who had these issues, not the current owner. So they might not even know what some of these issues were, and we can tell them. So we see a lot of resistance. It's just like when Carfax started. When Carfax started, and because I don't have hair and what's left is gray, I was there when it started. And you would go to a dealership and they hated Carfax reports because it got in the way of doing the deal at the price that they wanted. And now, until finally, there's always a point where the market shifts, where the powers that be say we should get ahead of this thing rather than be behind the curve. And now a Carfax report is part of almost every transaction from a dealership with a used car. And so we're not there yet. Carfax took a lot of time and money to get there. We're still in the early stages of our business, but our goal is to protect the home buyer. Anybody who wants to protect the buyer is our friend. And if you don't, we'll see you in a couple of years when you have to get this rather than when you should get it.
What I'm realizing as I hear more about Property Lens is that I was short-sighted in asking my question about a residential buyer or an investment buyer. I see another market. I'm certain you've already thought about this. The banks, the lenders, right? I could see them hiring your company as part of their appraisal process, right? Where they
Mhm.
say, well, yeah, I understand, Smiley, you want to get that $4 million mansion, on Tampa Bay, but let's go ahead and pull this Property Lens report. Let's make sure that what you're getting is what you're expecting, type thing. Do you see that happening as well as being part of your business plan?
So when we bought this house, we had to have it appraised. And I went to the local assessor, and the assessor said, on the tax bill, it says it's 2/3 structure, 1/3 land. And I'm like, great, I paid this much for the house. So this should be the value of the structure, right? Because I needed a permit to improve it. And they were like, we just make that up. I was like, are you kidding? It's like,
Whoa.
this is what happens. And so finally, I had to pay 4 times. I used an automated assessment tool, and I used 3 different assessors to say, hey, listen, this is what the value of the house needs to be so I can get a permit for the appropriate amount. And they said, okay. And they did it. It's like, really? And this happens every single day. The appraisal game is, what are the comps and is it close? And it's like, it's such a I don't want to call it a joke because that's
The
not.
game.
It's a game. It is a game. It's such a game. And the game benefits certain people, and they don't necessarily want to de-gamify the game. So yes, I agree. But at the same time, a lot of that stuff is so listen, let's fight one battle at a time, and we'll get to that eventually. And we could say, yeah, Dre told me about that 5 years ago. Now he's right.
Because what I see, and I'm going to give to Smiley here in a second, because what I see is everything evolves, right? Everything evolves. Like
Yep.
the car game, selling cars, like you mentioned earlier, it'll be wise for the home seller to
Hmm.
say, I want to go ahead and include a Property Lens report on this listing realtor that you're putting on the MLS so
Yep.
that when everyone comes to buy this house, they know I've priced it accordingly
Hmm.
based on these things, right? Just what every dealer does, right? You walk in.
Yep.
Remember back in the day, you had to go in there and haggle. Now everybody's moving to this. Here's the price.
Yep.
Here's the Carfax. Here's
I
the
hate I
price.
hate that. I love to haggle. I'm like, all
Well,
right,
you
let's
probably
let's go.
let's go. Start low and then start high. You guys meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I see happening for those that are ahead of the curve and realize where the game is going as it relates to real estate.
Yeah, it is. There was a house and not to pick on Florida, but there was a house in Florida where the roof had been replaced 3 times in 22 years. It's like either that owner was just doing the drive-by where, a lot of times what'll happen is there's a storm and a roofer comes by and goes, hey, I get your free roof from your insurance company. Might have been doing that or might have had the roof blown off 3 times. So if you're buying that house, and it had been 6 years since the last time the roof was replaced. So it looks like it's coming up on its due date for a roof replacement. And depending upon your insurance, you might end up paying for that roof. So that's the kind of stuff that you're never going to get from a real estate disclosure. So to me, in the future, the best cared for houses should get the best price. And Property Lens is a way to show that you're taking care of your house.
I like what you said something earlier. You said you triangulate. Listening to you speak about the appraisers, tell me if this is a fair assessment. So if I'm buying a new property, a house, I got Property Lens to tell me the history. I have my inspection to tell me what's happening now. And I have my appraisers, which is going to tell me what the future projection is. So now I get the whole continuum of time, past, present, future, whereas currently without Property Lens, I only have what's happening now and the future expectations, but I don't know, like you said, why are you changing your roof every 5 years? I don't have any history. And that's where Property Lens fills in that continuum of time. Is that
Yep.
fair?
Yeah.
Wow.
The other thing to remember about your inspector is that they can only judge what they can see. So they won't tell you prior damages. They won't tell you the permits in most cases. They won't tell you what's hid. Like if you have a big mold spot on your wall and you're selling a house, just put a tapestry over it. And the inspector can't move the tapestry. They check the switches, they run the water, they do the investigation, they do a really important job. But this house had a radon issue, which wasn't disclosed, and the inspector doesn't look at. It had a sewer line issue, which the inspector doesn't look at unless it's a specialized inspection, and it had a roof issue. Now, the inspector did a visual, but didn't get up on the roof. So if I wanted more of a roof issue, I had to have a specialized inspection. And we help point those things out to say, here's some other things that your inspector might not check. So when they're walking through the house, tell them to keep an eye out for it to make sure you get the inspection that protects you the most.
So as Andre mentioned earlier with the bankers, I would think the insurance people would want your services as well. It's like, hey, before I insure this, where's the Property Lens report? Because if it's the correct data from the Property Lens, I could give you a better insurance rate because I'm not going to have this unforeseen, unmitigated, uninsurable event. Is that
Yep.
fair as well?
That we have a robust business to insurance companies because our data is available via API, so they can just pull the data in a pipe and not have to get the whole report. The thing that they're most interested in is the condition of the roof. Like if you're in Texas, after 7 years, your roof goes from replacement cost to actual cash value. So if there's a storm and your roof gets replaced and it's 10 years old, chances are that roof isn't worth very much. So you're going to pay for it. Versus other states, they'll say if your roof is less than 10 years old, more than 10 years old, we're not going to insure you. We read case after case of $200,000 houses that can't get insurance because their roof is too old. It's like that's something you should negotiate on the sale to make sure that that roof is in good condition and replaced. And yes, insurance companies use it to an extent because there's a lot of regulations with insurance and yada, yada, yada. But yes, there's a robust business there for us.
So we've been talking about inside the business. You're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. You had an exit with a company before. So let's step back.
Yep.
Hi, Bob. It's 2035. Bob is in Bali because he sold Property Lens to Zillow, or he sold it to State Farm Insurance, or what's
For
the
$1 billion.
vision? No, at this time because of AI, $2 trillion. It's going to be 2 trillion in 10 years. But what's the long-term vision? Is it to get every state? Is it to get other countries? Is it to go global? Is it just to dominate a region?
It's to dominate the U.S. We want this to be as much of a part of the home buying journey as a Carfax report is to buying a car. And if we're successful in that, then there's more than enough to eat. And in 2035, the first thing I thought is, am I still alive? So if that's the case,
You're
We're
not
the
that
same
old,
age.
Bob.
I
You're not
looked
that
you
old.
up.
Come
We're
on now.
the
Come on
same
now.
age, Bob. I
Come on
looked you
now.
up. We're the same, but we're alive.
yeah. If the AI robots haven't killed me,
Right.
the goal is to when you like the last company that I built, it put me in a place, thankfully, that I don't have to worry about capital. So when I started this company, I'm like, this is my legacy company. This is our legacy company with my co-founder and my crew. I want this to be a part of the fabric of America. And if it is even a little tiny piece, great. If it's not, well, at least I tried. It's like you got to take that home run swing at some point. And to me, this is our home run swing. Now, does it mean that we won't sell it at some point? Well, listen, people make crazy offers all the time, and I'm not going to necessarily say no. But I want to grow this thing we want to grow this thing into something special. And that takes time and perseverance and all that good stuff. Plus, here's the other thing is, money's great and all that stuff, but stuff is just stuff. I have, like, my son ended up interning for this guy who's a billionaire. It's like, I thought I was a badass, and like, this guy is like way, way out there. And I'm like, am I competing with that? Why? Why would I compete with that? I have 3 tenets in my life. Am I a good husband? Am I a good father? Am I a good person? And if I'm meeting those 3 things, money doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, it adds some sauce. It adds a little whipped cream on the old ice cream dish, but it doesn't make me a better person. And unless I become a better person. And that was really the most shocking thing about the exit was learning that it's just stuff, it's just stuff. And if you're not close with those who love you and support you, then you're just kind of an asshole. Excuse my language, but it's like, I don't want to, money's a magnifier. If you're a jerk, it'll make you a bigger jerk. And if you're not, then it gives you the opportunity to do some wonderful things.
So I agree with you 110%, right? Smiley and I talk about this often, how, we know people or have heard of people who have died with no one around them. They got a bunch of money.
Yeah.
There's no one, no family and things like that. Smiley shares that story with me often about people he's interacted with. So 110%. I'm curious though, is there a moment earlier on when you were trying to, achieve what you define as success,
Mm-hmm.
where you didn't realize that early on? Was there a moment when you reached that point of, you know what? I don't need 12 cars and a yacht and a private plane. What I need is my family. I need my health. And was there a moment when you came to that discovery?
There were 2, actually. The first came way before I started the business, and I got divorced. I had 2 young sons at the time, and I spent a long time thinking, like, what was my role in this? And my role is I took my eye off the ball. I didn't appreciate my family. I didn't give them the grace that they needed, and I lost them. Now, luckily, I was able to recover them. Didn't get remarried to the same person. But I was able to repair my relationship with my children. And that's at that point, not right away, but after a lot of soul searching, that's when I put the 3 tenets in place, as I call them. And if I'm doing those things right and I'm trying to help people, then things will take care of themselves. So that was the first part, is when I lost my family. And now I have a wonderful relationship with my sons, both adults now. And then I met a wonderful woman. She brought a daughter into the party. So, we're the Frady 5. We have a great time together.
Love it.
And so that was the first part. The second part was after we got the check, which was a great day. It was like, I did all the stuff, and I'm like, I got offered this really nice Rolex, a bluesy, and I was
Hey.
like, why? Who am I trying to impress?
Mm.
And so, yeah, I got a couple of tokens that mean something to me, but for the most part, it's like, it's just stuff. Man, I grew up in a 3-bedroom apartment with 6 kids and a dog in 1 bathroom. It's like, I am living in the bonus life right now.
Yeah.
So I look at it like, listen, I've been broke. I've been not broke. Not broke is being better than being broke.
Any day.
But being broke doesn't define you if you're always moving forward to being a better person. And so that came after about a year. It's like, it's just stuff. Just deal with it. And, I had an interesting sort of side story. I had a talk yesterday with one of my interns who became a major league ball player, and he didn't have the most successful of careers. And we were talking about it, and I said, if you take every person who's ever played in the major leagues and put them in a stadium, the stadium would only have to hold like 23,000 people. Like, you're one of 23,000 people. You have done something that people would change places with in a heartbeat, even on your worst day. And so reframing the perspective of what it all means really comes down to you. It's like, we're going to die someday. We're going to lose people at different points. Go out there, try to be a good person, live your life, support your fellow man, and try to do something fun and have and just go kick ass. And so I just think I went on a really long tangent to your question
You're
and
good,
didn't
man.
fully
You're
answer
good.
it.
You fully answered it.
But it's like, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. It's nice, but it's just stuff.
Love it. Love it. So before we hit to the final four, one last question. How can our listeners, viewers, get to your site to learn more about PropertyLens, to learn more about, how they can leverage your tools for their needs?
Sure, it's real simple. You go to www.propertylens.com and you type in an address and see if there's a picture, and then you go buy a report.
All
So you
right.
can there's a sample up there, so you can see what we deliver. There's all that stuff. You'll see my picture if you really look for it. Not that that's worth going to the site for, but it's there.
All right.
And that's how you come reach us.
Love it.
All right, Bob, we're moving into the
High
final
tech, high
four.
tech.
That was Andre, not AI. So, first final four question: alive or dead, who would you want to spend 24 hours with?
Alive or dead? Jesus Christ. Because I want to get a little bit more knowledge about what was going on there. So I'd like to see it in the flesh. That's the dead category. But the alive category, I'd also like to be Elon Musk for a day, just to see what it's like to be on the spectrum and to see what it's like to run multiple companies at the same time.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
That's a really hard question for me to answer because I don't take compliments well. I tend to dismiss them. But I think the best compliment would have to be from my wife, where she said, "I'd marry you all over again." That's a little digression. I'm sorry, this is final four, but a little digression. When I met
You're
my
good.
wife, I was broke. I was $50,000 in debt when I met her, and she married me anyway. No accounting for taste, I suppose, but she was the rock that helped to guide our future. And so the reason why we're in this house is because she wanted to get it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. And I told her the day we got the check, I said, I will give you half of this money right now. You can walk away. I would understand. But if you stay for one more day, I'm going to fight you for every dollar. And
I love that. I like that. I've never heard that, Dre. You. So the follow up. This is a side tangent to the follow up final four question. But you don't take compliments well. But what was the best piece of advice that you mentioned? Because you mentioned you have mentors and different things. But
mhm.
what was that best piece of advice when you were on the spectrum of broke going to not broke? But this mentor said something that just like ignited some fire in your soul and you rose like a fiery phoenix to achieve success. What was that best compliment? Not compliment, best piece of advice, rather.
I have to give credit to my late friend, Jaffer Ali, who was a big, important fella in my life. And he said, "Why are you taking shit from so many people who aren't as smart as you? Go bet on yourself." And it took a couple of years for that to take root, but it was the best kick in the butt. It was a loving kick in the butt. And he was a wonderful guy, wonderful cackling laugh. I miss him terribly, but he was probably the one person that put me back on the entrepreneur path after being sidelined for such a long time.
So the third final four question is what is something that never fails to make you laugh?
Okay, this is good. This is going to sound awful and it's embarrassing, but it's hippos farting in a zoo. If you see a video of that with a tail whipping around, I'm like, every time. And everybody getting splashed. Oh my gosh, it makes me laugh every time.
I
I've
love
never
that.
seen that, Drake, but it's going to be on my
Hey,
list.
guess what I'm going to Google at the end of this? Huh?
Exactly. Before 1 o'clock, before 1
That's
p.m.
right.
Eastern,
Yeah,
I will see
I'm gonna
that.
see it. Yeah. What's something, Bob, that you wish that you were better at?
Gosh, I wish I was better at reading people. I'm pretty good at it, but every once in a while I really miss the bus. I always try to come from a place of goodness and not everybody interprets it that way. And so I just assume since since I'm trying to be good that you want that. And sometimes people are suspicious of that and you just miss. So I think they call that emotional intelligence. Like I had a coach one time. He said to my wife, he's like, "Bob has blind spots. They're like this big." And I wish those emotional intelligence blind spots were a little bit smaller.
Bob, man, this has been phenomenal. Thanks again for being on the podcast.
Thank you guys. It's been wonderful.